Hi gaming guys, and so we've got another Special Projects replica build for you today, and obviously today is not usually the day that we would do a build like this, but Special Projects are pretty much the most popular category on the channel. So, if you guys would rather not have an extra special project at the end of the week perhaps, then feel free to comment below and we'll go back to the way it was with other tunes, PP tunes, etc. But if you would like to see an extra special project each week on the weekend, as well as the Tuesday and Thursday schedule, then also comment down below, because obviously I want to do a kind of schedule that will give you guys what you need. So if you'd like to have another special project, comment. If you don't, also comment. Now in this particular special project, we are replicating a car which, if it were featured on the game, in its stock form, stock of course being very relative, it would definitely be the fastest street car in the game. It would have no trouble whatsoever beating the Veyron, the Huayra, the Nismo. I have no doubt about that. And the car that we're replicating is the Veyron Supersport, specifically the top speed version, because obviously the road versions were speed limited, and that actually affected their top speed Guinness record for a while because they did that. So, as far as the visuals, there's not that much that you can do to it, and I've painted it in kind of a greyish carbon kind of tone. As you can see, you cannot get two-tone unfortunately in the colours that we need, which is the carbon and orange, so we've gone for the next best thing, which is basically a carbon grey, which actually looks very similar to the actual kind of carbon colour on the Supersport. Now, this particular colour is a Gran Turismo colour. It's called 001C, I believe, and I can't remember how I got it. I believe it was from a seasonal event. So if you can't get that colour, you'll obviously have to get a matte black, for instance, instead, or try and find something that's like a carbon grey, or just go for a completely different colour, of course. So, we'll go straight over to the mechanical tuning garage for the setup of the car, and then take it out to a race circuit to see how it performs. Now, I usually try to make these builds as PP relevant as possible, but with this particular car, it doesn't really matter. It's just a replica of a supercar, so PP relevance is kind of irrelevant. As it happens though, it almost nestles up to 670, which is close enough. Now, it's a street-based tune, of course, so I've gone for sports soft tyres. I have upgraded the brakes on this particular one. You can opt not to do that, of course, but I just wanted to make it feel better, basically, than the normal Veyron, which is befitting the Supersport. As far as the suspension, we've lowered the ride height to 80, front and rear. Springs we've slightly increased up to 650 and 925. The dampers and anti-roll we've left on 3. Neutral camber and neutral toe. We'll come back to the gearbox last, as usual. I have opted to leave the clutch, flywheel and prop shaft stock. You can upgrade those, but I've just opted not to because it is more of a street-based car. As far as the centre diff, the handling on this car is naturally very heavy, so I would recommend playing around with the diff and the centre diff to find what works best for you. I've gone for 30-70, and then for the diff itself, the lowest initial torque, highest acceleration, and lowest braking. As far as the power, we do have an oil change on this one, and in order to get the actual power of the Supersport, we've got a sports computer, sports cat, and intake tuning, and then reduce the power down to 1183 horsepower, which is the actual horsepower of the Veyron Supersport. And as far as the weight, it's a little bit lighter, so you need your stage 1 weight reduction, and then a 196 kilo ballast to bring us up to the real weight of the actual car, which is 1838 kilos, and then we've put that 7% towards the rear to give it the actual weight split of the real car, which is 45-55. Now finally, for the gearbox, I had to do something a little bit different for this one, because something didn't really add up in my research for the car. Now, in order to get the actual individual gear ratios of the car, you need to have an auto setting of 230, then come down to your final drive and set it on 34 3460. That number there. Then, when you've set it on 3460, come back to your auto setting, click it down and up a peg back to 230, then you will be able to reach all of the individual gears of the Supersport. And the individual gears are 318, 226, 168, 129, 1060, 880, and 800. But this is where the issue comes in, because according to multiple sources that I found, the actual final drive of the Supersport is 364. With that final drive, this car will only do 210 miles per hour. So I'm not sure what the problem is there. I think it may have to do with that whole second key thing that you have to do with the Veyron to unleash the extra speed. As far as I knew, that only affected the downforce, so I'm not sure where the discrepancy is there. But there's just no way of getting its actual top speed with the quoted final drive that people are giving out. So it's kind of strange. So what I did instead, we've kept the actual gears of the real car as you'd want them to be, but then I've adjusted the final drive to the point where it just gives us the correct speed that the car should have. And to do that, you need a final drive of 2.7, and that gives you the exact top speed of the real Veyron Supersport, 270 miles per hour. Now obviously you can make it go faster than that, but this is a replica, not a top speed tune. So you want it to be as accurate to the car, not necessarily stupidly quick. Because of course the Veyron can be made to do 310 under its own power, but that's not realistic to the car. So that's it for the mechanical setup overall. Very accurate actually overall mechanically, everything but that final drive pretty much. So now let's take it out to a circuit to see if it feels authentic. Now, surprisingly, despite not having that much less weight than the original Veyron on the game, this actually handles surprisingly well. I would not recommend, though, of course, taking on LMPs with it, because it's just not capable of that around the track. Not cornering tracks, anyway. But overall, I have to say, I am impressed by how this car handles. The brakes, with the upgrade to racing brakes especially, also do a pretty good job of scrubbing off all that power. Because you do have to remember that it's bringing a car to a stop that weighs the best part of 2 tons. This is one of the heaviest cars in the game, and with almost 1200 horsepower, that is a lot for the brakes to deal with. They do a very good job though. So if you do decide to use this replica to build your Veyron into a Veyron Supersport, which can be done to both the 2013 and the 09 Veyron, it makes no difference, then obviously I hope you find it fun, and perhaps even competitive in racing, but it's not really designed for that. And if you'd like to keep up with other replicas like this, be sure to hit subscribe down below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.